Is she asking for quick? I'd like to comply with her request.
Welcome to the Town Board meeting Thursday, February 19th. Please stand and we'll salute flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The emergency exits are to and back of the town clerk, and also the door that you came in. Roll, please.
Councilman Delaney?
Here.
Councilwoman Hesselberger?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Here.
Councilman Prodi?
Present.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Here. Public comment?
We have one public comment. This one? Yep, you're.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Moores. I live in Millbrook, New York. It is nice to be here tonight. Thank you for receiving my comments. I'm here to just represent the PCB removal resolution. I'm actually kind of just the messenger. What got me involved in this issue was that I attended a forum that was open to the public and also primarily meant for municipalities of the region of the Hudson Valley to attend to hear about the status of the present-day situation of the Hudson River PCBs, the removal of them. And at that meeting at the time, I was mainly just in attendance. I didn't think I had any sort of task assigned to myself, but here I am. This is the second municipality that I have visited, and I understand that municipalities in all sorts of counties in Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Greene, they've received this PCB removal resolution, and I'm just kind of here to highlight this topic and express how I believe in it. The resolution basically talks to the 136 acres of floodplains where the PCBs are present still. And the GE dewatering, this is the term that I learned by attending the forum, dewatering equipment is still in place. However, it's going to be removed sometime during the year of 2015 unless GE is convinced that they should continue to remove more the remaining 136. Why are they not being made to remove them at this point? From what I understand, I'm not totally well versed. I'm still becoming immersed. Water, get it? Immersed in this topic of the situation. According to the EPA, they have met their cleanup task. However, organizations such as Riverkeeper, Scenic Hudson, there are numerous of them, and Clearwater, and that's why I'm here tonight, is because Manna Jo Green, the environmental director of the Clearwater, is the creator of this PCB removal resolution, and her task is to get 100 municipalities to endorse this resolution. So basically that's why I'm here, is to highlight this. And also I can bring back questions to her, comments. And I've been communicating through email with the town clerk. So I hope that you can consider this issue, even though we're not a river town. It's just that the environmental organizations really feel strongly enough that this is the tactic to do, is to get this municipal resolution passed by enough municipalities in order to bring the attention to GE so that they will continue PCB removal. Do you have any questions for me at this time? Is there anything that I can...
What is the purpose of the resolution? When she gets 100 resolutions, does that mean that GE has to clean it up?
No, I don't believe so. But it certainly would, and from what I can tell, it would bring a lot of attention. The paperwork that you received includes addresses of the, there's governing bodies in that list, as well as environmental. I think the EPA is in there. I don't remember all that's in the addresses, but if the resolution was to be passed by this town of Amenia, then copies of it would be forwarded to all those addresses, and that's what gets the attention, is that it's like Governor Cuomo and et cetera. So
basically it's sort of like a petition of towns.
exactly.
Okay.
I asked for a petition for myself to carry. She came back and told me, no, this is what she wants to do. I suppose she's an environmental lobbyist, and I'm here as an activist. It's my new task now. So I'm taking
And
this on.
According to the EPA, they can't force GE to clean anymore?
See, now, from what I know, I'm not an expert, they've satisfied the cleanup. They have cleaned it up to some degree, but leaving this, from what I've read, and I can forward, I have an email that came to me yesterday that a woman from Scenic Hudson, I think she's an environmental attorney. I am not.
Okay.
I was a music teacher and an interested citizen.
Yeah.
So I'm getting off track. Clarify that again.
You said the Scenic Hudson's environmental lawyer had...
Oh yeah, she explained that with the remaining 136 acres, it's still not going to allow for the river to gain back its health that it should be returned to. The PCBs will end up being stirred up some more. And
Do you know how many acres were already cleaned?
no, I don't.
No. Okay. I mean, I remember hearing it way back when there was
Yeah.
a whole debate about, if they were going to dredge, were they not going to dredge? Is it better off just to leave the PCBs where they were instead of stirring them up and making them go downriver and everything else? I mean, I remember that huge debate years ago. So I guess they went on with the dredging.
Yes, and that's answered in this email as well, because that was a typical question from,
Okay.
I believe, from the last meeting that I attended at Millbrook, which was the first meeting that I have attended. You're the second municipality that I've approached. And it's better to clean it up than to leave it there, because it'll naturally just start ebbing away, or whatever the term would be, where they don't come apart, but they'll move around and be eaten by the fish and et cetera, life cycles, So,
Vicki, do you know anything about this?
Well, I had seen the resolution a while back and had asked, I work at Carey Institute. I'm not a scientist, but I work in development, so over lunch hour and casual chats with the aquatic scientists there. There's Dave Strayer, who's a freshwater ecologist, Dr. Emma Rosie Marshall, who studies the effect of pharmaceuticals on freshwater streams that go into the Hudson. And then also Stuart Finley, who's researched on the Hudson River, particularly for the last 20 years. And they were very reluctant to say, yes, it is the right thing to do. All of them said, the jury's still out. There are pros and there are cons. So they weren't willing to give me a strong or even a committed, yes, we should sign this petition and go forward. I agree that we had Scenic Hudson, Clearwater, and Riverkeeper. Those are very important environmental organizations that clearly have signed on. I know Amenia Jo Green, she's done a lot for environmental issues in the Hudson Valley, and I don't see why she would have any ulterior motive to do that, right? So it was my recommendation to the board, just based on my quick straw poll at Carey Institute, that there wasn't a clear mandate. The concern, but what I didn't ask more carefully was these floodplains, maybe are these the wetlands along the shoreline that you're concerned about with PCBs? I was talking more about what you were saying, in that the deep water dredging often stirs up more suspended PCBs. Maybe it's better to let the sediment lie under layers of sediment that's come over the top and protected it, rather than to stir it up. So I could go back to them and ask this very particular question about whether the 136 acres of what I believe you're talking about are wetlands for floodplains adjacent to the Hudson. Is that?
Yes, and I don't know the exact location, but it is upriver. It's more up by Champlain Canal. I'm not really sure. That's in the information that you have, I believe.
Okay. I could go
I
back
can,
to them,
If you can ask a little bit, I just don't feel comfortable on voting something that
we don't know.
we don't know about.
Right. I can ask for
We
more
haven't done the
information.
resolution anyway.
Yeah.
We're not prepared to vote on anything, I think, because
No,
we pretty much tabled it at the time.
Sorry about that. Would it be possible for me to ask either Manna to come or Althea from Scenic Hudson, since they're better versed than I am on this subject?
I don't see why not.
I mean, I'm willing to listen, you know.
Sure. If they were willing to come and give a presentation, I think we'd all be enlightened, and our listeners would be enlightened as well.
That would be great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a great
Thank you.
evening.
I'm Darlene Reamer, and I used to sit up there at the table. I missed that position, but in any case, I'm happy to be here tonight to speak to you. I live in Amenia. I'm an Amenia resident. My office is across the street, and I thank you for this opportunity. For the past few summers, a friend of mine has complained about a noise in her closely knit Depot Hill neighborhood. An abutting property owner has imported trees to his property, deposited by a logging truck, and placed on the edge of the property line that is a distance approximately 10 feet from my friend's bedroom window. The trees range from 12 inches to 18 inches in diameter and are approximately 20 feet long. There are several of them, perhaps as many as 12 20-foot long trees that are stacked about 8 feet high and unsupported from rolling in either direction. The tree logs arrive in spring and block her view as she backs out of her driveway, which is adjoining the layer of logs. When the weather warms up, the chainsaw comes out. The trees are cut into proper lengths to be used in the wood furnace during the winter months of the property owner who imported these trees. The chainsaw cuts all summer long, and especially on weekends, and there's no respite from the noise. When the wood is at the proper length, the noise continues into the cooler weather, and the splitting of the logs begins. About 4 cords are processed and sit ready for the fire to come as the winter gets colder. My complaint is not about the right for one to burn wood for warmth for his family. It's about the right of the adjoining property owner to have quiet tranquility of the summer with the windows open and sitting on her porch on a summer day, sharing tea or lemonade with a friend who may stop by. With the ongoing endless chainsaw noise throughout the summer, the noise level can be quite annoying, and I've distributed the range of common sounds with noise levels, decibels, a conversation that you would have with another person on a porch, say on a summer afternoon, is around 50 or 60 decibels. A chainsaw is 105 to 115 decibels. So in order to have a conversation in that context, you would have to be shouting at another person and still not be heard. It's an interruptive, disruptive noise. And according to our code, our master plan, our local law 2 from 2007, addresses this issue, and everything is in place to address it. Article 121-40, Environmental Performance Standards, Section B, number 2, control noise and light perceptible beyond the boundaries of the site where it's used. And these trees are right on the property line. So that noise is in a very crowded neighborhood, small lot sizes, and a lot of people are affected. Chapter 80 of the Amenia Town Code refers to maintenance and construction issues. And that's a short-term experience. And as an architect, I know when I'm doing a project in a neighborhood that has ordinances, for example, in a gated neighborhood, they will have a homeowners association where noise levels are regulated and time frames are designated. This is for the town. So our code that we instituted in the master plan in 2007 addresses a more stringent level. And according to home rule, at the lowest level that the town has access to, it takes priority over anything before it. So this is the latest of all of this. The sound level shall be determined at the property line of the lot from which the noise is emitted. That's 115 decibels, unpredictable, stop and go, stop and go. And the sounds are offensive, disruptive, or in continual disharmony with the character of an adjoining or nearby residential neighborhood. So the noise that's created is in that level. And I would just reiterate, this is not about the right to provide heat for a family. This is not what it's about. It's about processing the trees. And they don't have to be processed the way they are. A solution would be that these trees, which are 20 feet long, 12 inches to 18 inches in diameter, could be dropped at a site designated by whomever, perhaps an open farmer's field, I don't know, but there could be an alternative site where these trees can be chopped up and split and then delivered to the home in the owner's, he has a pickup truck, he could deliver it to his home. It doesn't affect the neighbor. It's a solution for getting wood in an inexpensive way, and I understand that. I mean, I burn wood as well. I know the constraints, but this is a neighborhood, and we have a law in place that takes care of it. We have people who can enact the law, who can cite things that need to be taken care of, and I think we need to follow the law. And that's like, this situation is the right way to do it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Do you want to make public comment? Either, because you guys came in after the meeting, just find out. Okay, that's it for public comment.
Well, I have a public comment.
Okay.
Maybe I should go to the podium.
You don't have to do that.
Good evening, Town of Amenia residents. I'm very thankful to be able to serve as your town councilman. However, I've been greatly troubled concerning events that occurred at the beginning of this year. I feel I should be held to a higher standard, not only as a representative of the people in the community, but as a representative to my God as a Christian man. I am reminded of words of wisdom from the greatest selling book of all time. The first is a proverb. Perhaps many of you know this proverb. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. The second one is this: everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, for man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. I pondered these verses for the last few months, and I have felt it was time to share them in an effort to set a standard of how we conduct ourselves, whether we are serving on a board or speaking from the audience. From this point forward, I'm requesting that a level of civility be present at our board meetings. Spirited discourse is welcome here, and I love spirited discourse. However, we should not resort to name-calling and cheap insults, whether we are sitting here at the podium or at a town board seat. That is what people in our community should expect from us, and it is what we as a community should expect from each other.
Is there any other public comment?
We have more.
Just one from me. If you didn't know it, Cumbies is out of regular gas. They still have diesel, but again, they've run out of regular gas. Shell at the corner does have regular gas. So if you're looking to fill up your tank, you want to go to the corner, especially if you're really low, and not pull over to Cumbies.
Okay, is there any other public comment?
Mike
I know.
also.
Yes, our county legislator is here to let us know the latest and greatest from the legislature.
I don't know about the greatest, but I will try. And it's good to see you on your new schedule. I came here actually last Thursday and found a darkened room, so it was, but you're bright today. So, and also I do want to thank you. As you know, I'm going through a difficult time, and I've heard from a lot of people in the district. The support has been great, and please keep the support and prayers coming. As far as the county business goes, in December, I came here and your meeting had just shut down. We did pass a budget, and it was a good budget. I voted for the budget. It does have spending very low. The problem with it is that it's not an accurate budget. So many of it was passed with the idea of saying, look, spending is down, but it pushed a lot of items into the new year in 2015. Some of which we've already acted on, which is increasing the amount of the budget so that politicians can run this year saying it's a low budget, but it's really not. And what I mean by that is in January we voted on the union contracts. And the first of a number of union contracts, the biggest one, the CSEA. And what that does is it'll give all the county employees a raise. It's a retroactive. They'll have 2% from last year, 2% this year, and then 2.5% next year. This year's and last year's, the 4% will come out of fund balance. So that'll increase this year's budget amount, and next year's 2.5% will come from the next budget. I was one of two legislators to vote against it, and the reason being, one, that fund balance, even though it's not current tax dollars, the question is where did that money come from? And there's two explanations. One was the energy tax, and if you remember last year when I was telling you about the energy tax, I said the whole idea is to bring in money to give union employees raises in an election year, and that's exactly what happened. I was against the energy tax then, and I'm also against the money being spent. The second place that money is coming from is the money that came from the state that Senator Ball and Assemblywoman Dee Dee Barrett got for us for mental health funding. $3.5 million came in September for mental health, and $1.5 million is expected in the first quarter of this year for jail reentry programs. And what the administration is doing, and I say that they're doing because they're on record, I asked them at one of our meetings, is rather than start new mental health programs, instead they're taking that money, using it to fund existing jobs and programs, freeing up the money that was going for salaries and programs, and put that in the fund balance, which is now going towards employee raises. I certainly believe our workforce deserves an increase in pay. I don't believe the economy supports it, and I don't believe charging people for the high heat during last year on the energy tax, or taking money from mental health programs at a time that we closed Hudson River Psych Center was the way to go. So that $4 million from fund balance, I think, is a problem. Going forward, next year's increase is 2.5%. That, in my estimates, is about a $2.9 million increase that we will have to put into next year's budget. When on the floor of the legislature in January, I brought this up, and I said, to me, either that's 2.9 is equivalent to about a 2.9 property tax increase, or you're going to be cutting jobs next year. And at that point, the county executive got up and pledged that there would be no property tax increase next year. The question is where does that 2.9 million come from? So that is a concern going forward next year. Where are we going to get 2.9 if everything stays the same, and we know who knows what's going on with gas prices, but its likelihood is government tends to go up. So that was the union contract. Second item, which we voted on at our February meeting, was we bonded $7.5 million to settle with Badilla, who had been arrested for murder and then released. And I'm choosing my words carefully. We went into executive session, and as representing the county, we're considered the clients, so I can't go into too much details, but as you've read from the newspapers, there was some kind of wrongful issue with evidence, and as a result, the county chose to settle. $7.5 million is what he got. That is a lot of money that's coming straight from our pockets, and the $7.5 million, at least from where I'm talking economics, is a bond. It's a 5-year bond. This year's amount will be $1.5 million. So in addition to next year, 2.9, $1.5 million, there is more money coming next year's budget. Where's it going to come from? So I think it's very important. We're doing budgeting. You don't just look at this year, you have to look at future years. But that did pass. Third item I want to mention is we did bond in January $2.9 million for a pipeline to come from the Dutchess County Rail Trail pipeline to the airport. It'll provide water for the airport and hopefully attract business and make the airport more of an economic engine than it currently is. And the fourth and last item I want to bring up is we have a local law that was introduced that we're considering for next month. I don't know whether we'll vote on it next month, but it'll be considered. And it seeks to make it a law against tethering your dog outside during the nighttime, during certain temperatures, whether the cold or the heat, and it sets different parameters on the cord. You have to have a dog house available. There's a lot that's in there. The length of it can't be higher than 7 feet. The rope. There's a lot of detail in there, and it would have 3 offenses. First would be $250 fine. Second, $500 fine with the cost of investigation billed to the person. And the third, I think, is like $1,000. So I'm curious as we go forward to hear from people if you think if it's something that we need to act on. I know the town of Washington has their own town-wide local law. They've been looking at this issue, and they have difference of opinion. On the one hand, there's the humaneness of having a dog out there. There's also the nuisance of a dog barking if it's your neighbors. So I'm curious to see as people think. I don't know if there's legitimate purposes for farmers, but down the road, if it's something on anybody's mind, feel free to let me know as I educate myself on how I would vote on that local law. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions on any of that or any other items.
Doesn't the ASPCA have these kind of regulations about having a shelter for your dog and having some humane treatment? I mean, I would think that they would have thought this out thoroughly
I know that they've been.
What works.
I know that they've been active in contributing to the local law, and my understanding it's gone through several scrutinies, whether the health department, or the county, it would make, what it would do is it would give authority not only to dog catchers in towns, but also the sheriff's office, anybody really to act on it. I personally believe that the first offense really should be a warning, you know, if somebody didn't know or something, but I'm still digesting it all to really say where my position would be.
We've been seeing a lot of the dogs out on Long Island, you know, found frozen to the ground and things like that. Over the past few weeks, they've been pushing it in the news. But I would suggest as you go through this to do keep in mind that the farmers do keep their dogs out there to keep, you know, their sheep safe. A couple of my friends have sheep, and they have Great Pyrenees out there watching them and taking care of them. They do have shelter for the dog to go to if it wants to, but please keep in mind that.
Well, and that's one of my concerns. I know one of the sponsors is Legislator Pulver, who's a farmer up in Pine Plains. That's why I figured he probably has already communicated with the farmers, but I don't know. I mean, I could see legitimate purposes with, you know, livestock or, you know, so that's why I'm letting people talk to me, tell me, you know, what you think. And then I'm also sharing it with the town of Washington because they have their own local law, because we want to make sure that home rule is respected as far as, and the two bills might be able to help each other and, you know, improve upon them. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, supervisor's report. Senator Sue Serino met with me yesterday as she is reaching out to all the supervisors and mayors in her district. Some of the things we discussed are the salt problem. The highway superintendents are getting enough salt for all the multiple storms we had. One of the other things I discussed with her is prevailing wage, one of the unfunded mandates that have never been addressed. That really is a burden on small towns. I told her I didn't think we'd expect for it to go away, but if they at least had a cap of like $10,000 or less where we wouldn't have to pay prevailing wage, it would be less of a burden on towns, especially small towns like ours. We also discussed a lot of the projects that we're working on at the town hall with a highway garage, heating system, kitchen, and how we're looking for funding for all of those projects. She shared with me some of the committees she's on. She's on the aging committee. She was very excited to be able, to make a difference to the seniors and be able to work on that committee in addition to the other committee she's on. On Monday and Tuesday, I attended the Association of Towns annual meeting and training. Some of the classes that I took were Planning for Success, a small town's marketing and branding initiative and its payoff, tourism and attraction and placemaking. A municipal energy program, that's a program where the Association of Towns is sponsoring and getting information about all the town's electricity bills to see if they can form a municipal energy program with all of the towns so that we would be able to pay less for our energy. Also, efficiency in the tax freeze area, town bond financing 101, which was CTO eligible for supervisors. I had mentioned before I'm working toward a certified town official accreditation given by the Association of Towns. This will be the third course I'm taking. And also took establishing and accounting for reserve, grant opportunities from the Department of State, grants, what's hot and what's not. It was a very informative meeting from an actual company that writes grants and gave us a lot of tips and when you're writing your grants and also getting your commitment letters. One of the things she pointed out, if you're trying to get a grant for a local initiative, that it's a good idea to get as many commitment letters as you can from taxpayers in addition to your elected officials.
Also took town budget basics, that was CTO eligible for supervisor and multi-year financial planning, which is with all the large projects that we're taking on, is something that we need to do for long-term financial planning as well as capital planning. We also received a 2015 Community Development Block Grant for $150,000 for downtown sidewalk improvement and also to create a sidewalk to Beekman Park. Rebuilding Together in Dutchess County is accepting applications. Save the date for 2015 Rebuilding Days on Saturday, October 25th. We have applications outside the meeting room here at the town hall for anyone who thinks they might be eligible and is in a position to need repairs on their home and meets the income eligibilities. Town clerk report.
Good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the residents who've come out and supported the second annual blood drive here at the Amenia Town Hall. I was able to achieve the number that we've been quoted, so I'm very pleased and excited, and I ask everybody to save the date for February 2016. The town board minutes of February 5th and February 9th have been circulated to the town board members. A new function that you'll find on our website, thank you Gretchen. Gretchen was kind enough to go ahead and work with BAS, and now they have a new tab on the front page of our website that says pay taxes. So it's one click and you can pay your taxes. We're actually doing very well. To date, I'd like to report that we received 36% of our town taxes. All of the special districts have been paid. So now we're working on paying the general fund and the highway fund. So we are much farther ahead than we were last year. I have received Allison Hale's resignation letter from the wastewater committee. So we're going to need to accept that. And I'm going to require authorization to advertise for the mowing specs of 2015 and also for the concession stand this evening. Do you want to do that now before I get into too much more detail with the minutes and the advertisement?
Well, I think we can, I make a motion to accept the minutes from Thursday, February 5th and Monday, February 9th.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes.
And authorization to advertise for the 2015 mowing and the 2015 concession stand.
I move that we advertise for the mowing and the concession stand.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi? And Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Ms. Hale's resignation?
Yes, I make a motion to accept with regret Allison Hale's resignation from the wastewater committee. She's worked very hard on this committee for a long time, and we appreciate her service.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes.
Okay. Something that I've put out on the table this evening is the renewal of the parking lot lease between the Town of Amenia and the Town of Amenia Library. Alan Gamble, who is the president of the library, contacted me yesterday to inform me that we need to do the annual renewal. This is a lease that has been signed since 2010. We keep the same lease agreements and just renew accepting with the new resolution. It was brought to our attention when he was about to send in the $10 voucher that we needed to renew the contract. So before we can do that payment next month, we need to just accept the renewal of the parking lot lease.
Resolution number?
5.
Renewal of parking lot lease between the Town of Amenia and the Amenia Free Library Association. Whereas the Town of Amenia maintains a municipal parking facility serving the hamlet of Amenia on a parcel of real property owned by the Amenia Free Library Association and located on Route 343, adjacent to the Amenia Free Library, bearing tax ID number 017167131616794. And whereas the town does not own the property but has maintained the property as a municipal parking lot, most recently pursuant to a 2010 lease agreement with the Amenia Library, whereas pursuant to the 2012 lease, the Amenia Free Library Association agreed to allow the town to make the property available to the public as a municipal parking facility in return for the town agreeing to provide maintenance services to the property, including without limitation the removal of snow and ice from the property. Whereas the term of the 2012 lease expired on December 31st, 2013, whereas the Town of Amenia and the Amenia Free Library Association have concluded that it is in their respective best interests to renew the 2010 lease for an additional 2-year period commencing January 1st, 2014, on the same terms and conditions as the 2012 lease. Whereas the renewal is a parking lot lease agreement on the same terms and conditions as the 2012 lease is a Type 2 action that is exempt from seeker. Now therefore be it resolved that the Amenia Town Board hereby approves the renewal of the 2014 lease for an additional 2-year term on the same terms and conditions as set forth in the 2014 lease renewal agreement attached to this resolution. It is further resolved that the Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the 2014 lease and to take such other and further administrative and ministerial action as may be necessary to effectuate the 2014 lease. The foregoing resolution was voted upon with all councilmen voting as follows. Someone make that motion.
Victoria, I'm not sure if all these dates make sense. In the second paragraph, I just wonder, was there was a new lease for the last term?
And that's what, when you and I were speaking, so we pulled them all out. And in 2010, on March 11th, they signed a lease. And this is the first time that they signed the lease with the library,
March 11 of 10.
2010. So it's been the same lease. But then when I pulled up 2012, it appears as though they're signing a new lease, but it's all of the same, everything's the same. So I don't know why they're signing a new lease rather than just renewing the resolution. So I bring everything to you.
All right. I think in the second paragraph, has maintained the property as municipal parking facility most recently pursuant to, wouldn't that be the most recent lease that was in effect, 2012?
Yeah, because when I took 2012, it did the same thing. It went back and forth between the two. That's why I said, how do we want to,
So in the second paragraph, it should be
you want to say 12?
I would
to
say
12.
Just keep everything as 12 and then,
Well, that one there, and then,
on the second to last whereas on the first page, renew the 2012 for an additional 2-year period. Rather than accepting the 2010.
okay, so wait a minute, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph,
Yep, second from the bottom.
the library and the town have concluded that it's in their best interest to renew the,
Keep that as 12?
I would say the 2012. You know, and the problem is that renewing it and making a new lease are a little bit different, but,
So the rest of it is okay.
and I would say in that same paragraph, the 2012 lease for an additional 2-year period commencing, I would put in retroactively January 1, 2014.
Instead of commencing.
Right.
Okay.
And now there's a lease agreement that's dated 2015.
Well, that's what we were going back and forth. Are we
Well, the
calling
thing
this
is,
15?
you've been using the property, so you can make the lease, you could do it retroactively, the term retroactive to January 1 of 14. You've been
No,
using the
no,
property.
I
right?
understand that, but, I mean, what's the difference what the lease was back in 2010 and 2012? Why don't we just read the lease agreement for
Well,
2015?
that's what I'm saying. There's a difference between renewal, because you can do a renewal, agree to renew on the same terms as the existing lease, which it looks like they're not really doing. They're doing a lease, a new lease.
So are the rest of the dates correct then?
Okay, and then now the airport paragraph, town board hereby approves the renewal. See, it's not really renewal of the 2014 lease.
Should we
You
table
wanna
this
table this?
Approve.
until
Next
next month?
The last year when you did it, it was March. So, we'll have a voucher
So we could
for
straighten the
$10
resolution
in March's
if you
bills,
wanted to do
knowing that we're gonna talk about it. Is that all right?
I-
Just so you guys know there's a $10 voucher coming.
Well, we can do that in March.
All right?
Can't we just take out the
Is
lease
that okay with
language?
everybody?
It's
Can't we just
just,
take out the lease language and
It
you'd be
should be
there?
the same lease and just renew it.
If you just
It
say
shouldn't
you're
be
renewing
renewing the lease. And then they're creating a new lease.
the
I
new
don't-
lease,
I
just
don't know
take
why
out the
we did
renewal.
that.
let's
Okay.
just table it and then get it straightened out and, you know, clear up the sloppiness and
This was in
we'll be done
March.
properly.
So whatever they wanna do, you can.
Because the only thing we're renewing is the 2012 one, right?
Well, the question is, you know, here, you don't really have a renewal, you actually have a new agreement. So what you could do is in the whereas paragraphs, we could recite, you know, that you've leased it in the past for these terms, and now you want to continue, and you're doing a new lease for the 2014,
Is this the
2015.
resolution from last time with just different dates?
Yeah, that's,
It's really not. It's
Okay,
kinda
so,
much, yeah.
okay, so you want to, so we'll table it and we'll do a new resolution and we'll do it at the March meeting?
Yeah.
It's fine with
Yeah.
me.
Dawn, do you?
I have
10,
10, 11, 12, 13, I'm gonna give you this whole packet.
You can email me if you want to email this resolution, and I'll just make the alterations.
Yeah, cause it,
I mean, it can wait. It isn't anything that couldn't wait. And we need to have the resolution correct, which I thought it was when I got it.
well, it's what we've been doing. Okay, so that will go next month. And I have one last announcement. Proud mommy moment, really. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate our very own Amenia Recreation cheerleaders. Both our Angels and our Stars attended yet another competition on February 7th at Ketchum High School, and each of our teams placed first. And if anyone sees our wonderful cheerleaders out there, wish them luck. Next week, we will be heading to Ocean City, Maryland for nationals. So, good luck, ladies. We really do need a trophy cabinet now. We're at 10 trophies for these young ladies in 2 years. They're doing a fabulous job. And that concludes my report.
Highway?
We've been pretty busy. Pretty expensive too.
Understatement.
Turned in some bills here last week. Our salt bill for the month was $11,580. Our diesel bill was $4,377. Our repair bills were roughly $8,858. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Truck 2004 was on Old Hanley Drive on a Friday afternoon. The plow wouldn't pick up, so we went and looked at it, couldn't really figure out what was wrong with it, but we assumed that it was the pump and the power takeoff. So it was a Friday afternoon, so we took it up to Dutch's Diesel. They said they would get it right in. We had another storm coming, so they got it right in, and we didn't get it back till Thursday the following week, but their bill for that repair was $3,563. Tuesday, after that Friday, truck 2006 came back with the same problem. Plow and wing wouldn't go up. So now we know what the problem was, so we tore it apart. We had time to work on it. So we took it apart in the garage and got the pump and the PTO from Dutch's Diesel. That bill there was $1,738. So just by doing it ourselves, it saved us $1,824. We do a lot of repairs down there and saves the town a lot of money. That's just one example there. Overtime this past payday, we had about 28 hours. What we do, we don't stay there all night. Like the county guys and the state guys, they're there around the clock. I mean, we'll go home and come back. That's what we do. That's how we manage to keep the overtime down. We don't want to sit down there all night. I mean, it doesn't make sense. We cleaned the streets. Took a while to get there, but I'd like to thank Mike DeLango for helping us. No help at all from DOT. I asked them that at least, I tried to get them to at least sand once we were done, but they didn't come around, so we sanded also. Had a lot of drifting up on Flint Hill and Depot Hill, so that kept us busy. Well, it keeps us busy every time the wind blows a little bit. Today we went around and cleaned out some catch basins and cleaned off some bridges. Yesterday our salt shed was completely empty. And the trucking company wouldn't even answer the phone. So I got a little nervous. I got hold of the county. The county was experiencing the same problem, no phone calls. So,
They answered when I called them.
They probably knew it was you. So the county, Gary Cooper says, well, you can borrow a 10-wheeler load from us if you want. I said, okay, good. So at 3 o'clock yesterday, we were supposed to pick up a 10-wheeler load. Then right around 11:30 or so, I got a call from Albany saying they were going to bring us a tractor trailer load of salt. So we didn't go to the county. And then yesterday we had today we had 2 more loads delivered. So we're in pretty good shape again.
You're supposed to get another one tomorrow, according to what he told me.
Right. But we really haven't used much more than what we usually use. I budget for 500 ton a year. It's a state bid. You got to put down how much you're going to use. The number that I use is 500 ton. So far this year, we used 475. But we had some to start with. So we used right around 600, which is pretty much average. The one that really killed us was that January 18th storm, the ice storm. We sanded some of them dirt roads 5 times. And like Tower Hill, you sand Tower Hill on the way up, and coming back down is freezing up again. So it really eats up a lot of salt. Other than that, we're in pretty good shape. I just hope that dog law that passes, I hope it's enforced better than our no parking law. I mean, we might as well take the signs down. That's it. Any questions, anybody?
Stanley, I just want to say thanks because I do notice when you guys are, going out there, even trying to just stay ahead of the weather, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, we stay ahead of it as much as possible.
You've prevented me from skidding out a few times.
That's good. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Is there a building report? No. Committee reports?
We did not have a CAC meeting this month, but I am assuming that we will have one in March. So that would be the 18th of March if we do it as a schedule, but I'll let you know at the next town board meeting for sure, confirm that, and they're usually at 7 o'clock on the 3rd Wednesdays.
Any other committee reports? Okay, highway garage. Had been, I sent everyone kind of a synopsis of what the town had gone through with the land across from Sin Patch Road, across from the DDSO. They had pretty much gone through all the steps to acquire land in addition to the land that we already owned to acquire the 2.9 acres to put a highway garage there, but that apparently it said that the town felt that There was only 2.9 acres, and they locked it in the property, no expansion. There was also opposition from Alan Shope at the time, so in 2003, they backed away from purchasing that land. Stan and I met with Joe Zarecki regarding the process for even acquiring that land again. The town owns 0.979 acres of land there, and there was an additional piece of land that the Office of General Services was going to sell to the town. However, in order to do that process all over again, I mean, there's no guarantee we could ever acquire the land from New York State or any adjacent land from DEC. So it doesn't, with those two facts, in addition to the fact that we don't know if we could ever acquire the land at all, it isn't a possibility for a highway garage. Right now, we're down to, after I met with the county, looked for land next to where their highway garage is. There's not enough land there for us to put one. There's not even enough, their salt shed isn't even large enough for us to use their salt shed. They would have to build onto their salt shed. So what we're down to now, if we're going to do a highway garage, is to purchase 7/10 of an acre next door to where the existing highway garage is. The owners are willing to sell it to us. We all know how bad shape the current highway garage is. It's structurally deficient. We put a lot of money into fixing the roof, and I don't know if the roof is even fixable anymore. I've talked with the owners, spoke with the owners of the 7/10 of an acre. They are willing to sell the land to the town. I think we need to decide if we, the price they want is $58,000. They don't want to go any lower than that. So we need to decide if that, in fact, is that where we want to put a highway garage, and do we want to move forward and spend $7,500 for a feasibility study about putting, and that would lay out everything we would need to know about building a highway garage in that spot, everything we would need to know about bonding.
Would that include the soil tests and phase 1 or phase 2 environmental studies, or would that be things that would be charged on top of that as we go forward?
Well, they gave us a list of what the feasibility that I'd already given you in a packet. They're currently working, building the highway garage, assisting the town of Taconic, doing the same thing. It's review the existing town highway garage site parcel, review existing survey mapping, if any, and there is a survey map, aerial photographs, review of past studies, geotechnical, whatever. Physical inspection, inspection of property and structures, identification of on-site sensitive environmental receptors such as wetlands, inspection of adjoining and nearby properties for contamination, sensitive environmental reports, review existing and future needs of the highway department, review of existing equipment and vehicles inventory, review of past sand, salt storage and storage methods, future needs for equipment, vehicle storage, vehicle maintenance, users, office space and storage, provide preliminary schematic building options, a schematic design floor plan of the metal building options, and discussing potential existing building reuse, new building, metal wood building options, revise the schematic plan to provide a single preferred highway garage and a sand salt storage building design, and then develop project budget costs so that and perform a fiscal analysis of project costs, utilizing a level debt service payment schedule, multiple year options, provide yearly tax and impact figures with examples of various property assessments, incorporate building foundation costs as well as hazardous material demo costs, and then preparation of a written summary report that would include everything, and then meet with the town board to review and discuss feasibility report findings. That would be the next step. We would need board approval to move ahead and pursue buying that particular piece of land and using the 7/10 of an acre to build a highway garage and to use the existing building for storage of plows and other highway equipment. I think what might have to happen with the existing building, we might have to put a roof on it. But that would be a highway garage. They would need a generator in order to, right now they have a small portable generator that they use. But I think we're at the point now where we need to make a decision and move forward.
When we'd spoken about this on the January 15th meeting, you were going to come back to us and essentially outline the different properties.
I gave you that information. The only two properties are those. When I gave you the packet and the feasibility report, and I gave you the information, the packet of the information about the everything that had been researched for the highway garage, the Wasaig DDSO property.
I'm sorry, what date was that?
Because it was, I gave you a packet of the feasibility study, and also I did like a kind of a summary of the whole project with the Wasaig DDSO property, and that's what this is.
Well, that's one we discussed tonight.
So that's, yeah, that's pretty much a non-starter. Unless you want to start that whole process over. We don't even know if we'll be able to get the property. But at one point...
So the packet that we just got tonight has that information in it, so let us take a look at it and talk about it
You've had
by
it.
the next meeting.
The packet you have tonight was put in your boxes several weeks ago, so that you'd have it ahead of time. And I'm not sure what else you would need to look at. There's the two properties and that's it. And one of them isn't available.
I still think there's more property. There's 3 parcels across the street here.
That aren't zoned for highway garage.
And we have no power to rezone.
We don't need to rezone, we're exempt.
We're exempt.
We're exempt.
I mean, it's worth a look. I mean, $58,000 for 7/10 of an acre. I mean...
What
yeah,
properties?
I mean, you have the Kornicki property. You have Jack and Linda's property.
Is that for sale?
I don't know, but this is what there's other property, it's worth maybe putting it out there and look. I mean,
The Kornicki property, from what I know about the type property it is, isn't suitable to even build a highway garage on it.
Why?
There's no access to it.
I mean, what does
It's
it cost
rock.
to build a road? I mean, you got, there's Stan's piece of property too. I mean, there's an existing road there already.
Can you talk to those 3 parcels that he's just suggested? I don't know that much about the grades and public access, or, you know, if there's existing roads to any of those parcels.
And I also know the CAC was looking in.
Talk to the owners. Talk to the owners of those parcels.
I mean, I think it's worth a look. You know, like I said, you have 7/10 of an acre for $58,000. I mean, going rate for that land over there, I mean, who knows, you might be able to get 7 or 8 acres for $100,000. I know it's a little more work and stuff like that, but
It wasn't so much its other work, it's where that land is down there, there's already a well, and there's already a septic. And where the Carnegie property is, there isn't access to the property. And I think we need to look at the type grade there, and the type land there is.
no, I agree, I think we should look at it. I mean, before we go into the feasibility for this piece down in Wassaic, I mean, let's exhaust our options on all the pieces of property. I mean, if we take a quick look at those 3 parcels, and if they're no good, they're no good. We did our due diligence, we looked. Yes, the piece of property in Wassaic is the only available piece. But, you know, I mean, there's 3 right off the top of my head that, I mean, it could work. I'm not saying it will work, but it's worth a look.
So who do you want to look at it? Do you want Morris Associates to go to those properties and say, yes, we can build a highway garage there, or no, we can't?
Is that the process? I mean, that's what we're gonna do with the piece in Wassaic, right?
Yes, he's already looked at it.
They already looked at that. Did they charge us for looking at that piece of property in Wassaic?
Yes.
How much?
He didn't charge us for looking at it, no.
Yeah.
He's been there and looked at it, and he said he would, you know, do a, look at the highway garage we want to put and see how it would fit on that land at no
Yeah.
charge to the town.
I'm just wondering if he's willing to look at these other 3 parcels. if
Well,
they're
do you want to
available.
pay him to look at them?
Well, we didn't have to pay him to look at the one in Wassaic. I mean, is he gonna look at
Because
the
he's
one
been
over here?
working on that one. But I mean, in order for him to, I mean, he would have to look to see if anything can be built there.
I mean, if they're gonna build a building on 7/10 of an acre, I think, you know, it's pretty safe to say they could build a building on 7 acres. And I understand about the grades and stuff like that, but you know, you're working with a lot more property, a lot more area. I mean, I think maybe the first step to do is,
And spending more on the land.
but getting 7 times as much also.
But there's several acres down there.
We're only buying 7/10.
I know, but we already own several acres down there.
Most of which are wetlands and
Which is basically non-buildable. That's the
No, they're
reason we
not.
have to get the 7/10.
It's not wetland where the sand pile is and the rest of their equipment is, and the fuel pump.
The only thing that...
I mean, all of that is down there. I mean, if you want to look at those 3 other pieces of property.
The only thing I would say, you know, maybe we could reach out to the property owners and see if they're even willing to sell, you know?
Willing to sell is one thing, and whether or not you can put a highway garage on there is another thing. I mean, if we want to look into that, we can look into that.
I agree with you 100%, but I think it's worth a look. I mean, basically, we're stating tonight that this is the only piece of property in the town of Amenia and Wassaic to build a highway garage.
What I'm saying is that it's the only available property that we know that is right next to the highway garage, where we would use the existing well, we would be able to use the existing septic, and we will be able, and the fuel depot that we just built is there.
Stan, how is the water down there?
It's not that bad.
I know Marco tested it, but you guys weren't drinking it and stuff there for a while. Has to be treated.
The only thing they found in the water down there was some bacteria. It wasn't E. coli. So they just have to shock the well.
And the septic's all up to snuff and everything?
We have to do that.
And
You
there's a
redid the
septic
septic.
there. So if we bought another piece of property, we'd have to do a well, we'd have to do a septic, in addition to buying the property. But I can look into the properties and get the numbers and bring them to the next meeting.
I mean, I would like to see that done.
Also, Victoria, the CAC had a list of some additional properties that they thought would be suitable. They had been looking into it.
Well, they never gave that to me, so I'm not aware of them.
The one question that I can recall was the DDSO property. You know, was there any possibility of using any of the existing parcels or the old highway facility that was there? And as I recall, they looked into it. And I remember Darlene saying she and Stan went there, went over every single piece of options there, and ruled out any possibilities. Is that true,
Yeah,
Stan?
that's worse than what we got.
So that
There's no room.
That there were some
flooding
other
issues, there were all kinds of reasons why none of those
And there,
areas would work.
right, and there was a piece of property that Alan Shope had offered to the town, but when Stan had someone from Soil and Water go there, they found it was wetland and that it flooded.
It's in the floodplain.
It's in a floodplain.
Well, what I could do is I could reach out to the person on the CAC who had compiled that list. It wasn't just the DDSO, there were a couple other properties, and get that to you so we can have them just, all together and look at them.
Okay, and I'll just do a spreadsheet with all of it, all the information. But I want us to keep working, keep moving forward on this so we can get a plan in place. Approval of intermunicipal agreement for shared equipment, the Dutchess County $265,000 grant. Denise has been working on this with the attorneys from the other municipalities.
The one thing I wanted to note is that on the first page, first paragraph, the address of the town of Amenia, they left out the 9, so you can pen that in. Joseph Gelb said that he will, redo that page with that correction,
Okay.
with everybody's consent, and then just substitute that page with the one change in there.
You just need a motion to authorize me to sign it so we can send it into the county.
Could, are we agreeing that this is a good idea?
We have the grant. It's $265,000. I announced it before.
Yeah, we received the grant, actually, Town of Milan received the grant.
No, we did, 4 towns. Well, Town of Milan is going to be housing the paver and the,
Whereas Dutchess County has awarded Milan, the lead agency for the towns, a 260.
they were the lead agency, but there were 3 other towns in the
Yeah,
grant.
which our share of the machine was 65,000 that we have to pay back, that we're gonna pay $67,489 and receive 65,000 back from the grant.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, do we do $67,000 worth of paving?
Not every year, no, never. Blacktop, yes, but when we hire a paver, I think last year was like 5,400.
He wants you to go up there.
Denise, which one's the most current? Because I have 8 versions of this.
The one that, he sent a new one today, Joe Gelb.
I know, and I'm guessing it's one of these 2 printouts that I got at 7
It's the one
tonight.
in the packet that has the date on it.
Okay, so this is not it. Were there significant changes? Because you said you were gonna.
No, he didn't. I emailed him and he responded. No.
Is there a reason that he got it back to us so terribly late?
Well, he dated it today.
Yeah.
Oh, why is that? Well, no, we haven't.
dated the 17th, actually.
Oh, he has a date made as of February 1st. But I emailed him and he verified that there weren't additional changes.
I mean, is this a done deal?
Yes, the county gave the four towns $265,000.
It's an expensive piece of equipment, I understand that, but we're dealing with 4 towns. Now you have 4
Highway superintendents
attendants,
who are going to sit down and do a schedule.
do a schedule,
Yes.
and then if the town of Amenia picks up the paver and something's broken on it,
That's all laid out.
That's all laid out. in
I understand that, and then if we want to end the agreement at the end of 2016, we have to sell our share back to one of the 3 towns if they decide to buy our share back. The only thing I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of chefs in the kitchen with this deal, and I'm a little worried, you know. Is there going to be a blame game? Well, Town of Amenia, you broke it, now you got to pay for it, now you're responsible for it. Town of Amenia is slated to get it 2 weeks out of the year, and now all of a sudden we have straight rain for 2 weeks, we can't pay. What happens?
Well, then they rearrange the schedule. The 4 highway superintendents are going to work out the schedule between the 4 of them.
You know, and then there's a provision, if they're not able to do that, then eventually it goes back like to the 4 supervisors of the towns. But the cost also, I think the life of the machine, isn't it like 20 years, Stan? I think I saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
The life of the equipment is something like 20 years. So, you know, the cost isn't just for 1 year or 2 years, it's.
No, then you have your
it's the
maintenance, then you have your
investment,
upkeep and everything else stuff,
right.
right? I mean, it's just not one outlay. I mean,
But this isn't the first time that we even discussed this. I remember when this was first brought to the board's attention. And I think, you know, it was a general feeling
And-
to go along and go ahead with it.
And one of the reasons we're doing this, one of the things we have to do in the governor's tax freeze program is to show efficiencies and show savings. And by doing this shared service agreement, we'll be able to, you know,
Demonstrate.
be able to meet that requirement in order for the taxpayers to get a rebate. The first year, 2015, only thing we have to do is stay under the cap, and we did. For 2016, we have to send in an efficiency program showing that, you know, we are saving money. Now, when we were doing this, Stan did some numbers and showed how much we would be saving yearly by not having to rent this.
Yeah, but after thinking about it, it's going to cost us more money. I believe it's going to cost us more money. It's going to be a lot more headaches.
Well, we
But
can,
that's what they want, shared services, so. But it's not going to save us any money, I don't believe.
And why is that? Because renting is cheaper than owning? Is that?
I believe last year what we did, we didn't do a whole lot last year. I think the bill for the paver was like $5,400 or $5,700.
And that's a typical year?
No, that was a slow year.
So what's a range of,
Probably, I'd say we want to go over $10,000 a year.
and you don't think in 10 or 6 or 7 years having this thing paid off would be cheaper than renting ad infinitum for the taxpayers? I mean, you're always going to need a roller,
10 years
right?
from now, we'll have some pretty expensive repair bills on that machine, I believe, because the paver is a high-maintenance item.
Oh.
But first few years, it's going to be okay, because the machine's new and it has the warranty. But as the machine gets older, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Now, Stan, how many of your guys are trained to use this machine?
None.
None. So we have to get training for them?
no, someone from Milan is going to
Well,
send
we can't
a
rely
buddy
on other
over.
towns all the time. I mean, we'll learn how to do it. I mean, we'll learn, it just takes time.
Well, I think that this is what we have to actually be doing, is
Right, that's what they want, yeah.
demonstrating and actually trying to make these things work. It seems like a reasonable piece of equipment to start that. I mean, the salt shed doesn't seem like it's a workable thing to share that with other towns, which are also in need of a
Yeah,
salt
got-
shed.
got
We haven't
that-
had any luck with that.
We got an email last week or this week. Now they're talking about going shared services for a salt shed. No, we don't need a salt shed in Milan. I mean,
Well,
You
that,
need it here in
they, well,
Amenia.
they just asked if we wanted to do it. I didn't tell them we wanted to.
we don't need it up there.
We need to have our own here.
But Millerton needs one. I mean, there are a lot of salt sheds already, and we haven't had any luck.
Town of Northeast is in the same boat we are.
Yep. So it seems like that ought to be
Northeast
something.
Washington.
Yeah,
Dover.
but contiguous towns. I mean, we need contiguous towns to work with.
Well, with the salt shed, you know, if Amenia puts 500 ton in there, we gotta make sure we get 500 ton back.
Yeah, but we gotta be more clever. There's gotta be a way of doing that. Of ascertaining which side of the sand pile or salt pile that we're taking from. I mean, it has to be possible. I just don't get that's one of the drawbacks for working with other towns.
You'd have to have a pretty big salt shed to have like 4 piles in there for 4 different towns.
Or two side by side, sharing a common.
Yeah, I think a lot of the
wall.
towns have different mixes too, don't they?
Right, right.
So that would be a problem too, because that was, when I went to the county to ask them if, we could share their salt shed, they didn't have enough room, but that was one of the things you pointed out to me, that our mix and the county mix are different.
Right.
But they didn't have room for us to share anyway. They said the only thing they would be able to do is build onto their salt shed.
Which seems like,
Well, the surrounding towns, we all work together and work together pretty good. But as far as sharing the salt shed, that would never work.
can't happen. Well,
And that paver and the roller, there's gonna be a lot of issues, but that's what they want, so.
I mean, we keep on hearing that that's what they want. That's what they want. I understand that's what they want. I want a lot of things too, but what's better for the town? I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I understand everybody wants and everybody this, but what's better for the town?
I think a cost-benefit analysis is the thing. So over 6-7 years, what's the typical, maintenance cost for a paver? What's, I mean, better than than we do.
It's gonna cost us every year is we're gonna have repair bills.
But shared by
in-
4
insurance
towns,
bill, we
right?
gotta put
Yeah,
insurance.
Four
shared by
towns.
4 towns.
So
Right.
divided by 4.
Do we know how much the insurance is gonna be? Is it?
Yeah, that's in there. And I already sent it to Byron Barnes, so he's had input into the insurance part.
I didn't see
I don't
that.
think
Which
that's
section
in
is that in?
Well, paragraph 9 is talking about.
But it doesn't have the cost.
No.
I saw that the price to get out of it is 65,000.
I just know working with equipment, it's hard sharing a piece of equipment. I mean, it's very hard.
I kinda wish it was all surrounding towns, like Dover, Millbrook, Northeast, but going from Island and,
What it is northeast.
is that?
Said it is northeast.
Did you
Yes.
find the price of the
And
insurance?
you got Milan and Red Hook too.
I don't think there's any price in there for the insurance.
No,
much
it's just
was
saying
that?
that we were responsible for a quarter of it.
How much was that, Victoria?
How much was what?
The insurance?
I believe they were holding the insurance. I told Byron about it, and he was in touch with them.
Yeah, but we're still responsible for a quarter of it.
Sharing the
Right.
cost, yeah. Well, it seems to me that in this day and age of lots of information available on the internet, it would not be hard to extrapolate, like, you do if you're gonna buy or lease a truck, extrapolate out over the life of that, what's the life of a paver? You know, I don't know these things, but if I were gonna buy, let's say, a $35,000 truck for our family, I'd weigh the lease, I'd weigh the cost of repairs, think about what kind of, I don't know, but it seems to me that there's more information that could be provided that would assure us that in 6 to 10 years, the cost would now be less than the cost of renting.
But now,
But that was some of the information you sent them, right?
I'm sure the grant
I
extrapolated
mean, I can,
out, right?
But I understand what you're saying, Vicky, but the problem that I have is you have 4 different entities using this.
Right.
So now, the way Stan takes care of his equipment might not be the way Mylan takes care of theirs.
Right.
And this is what's gonna happen, is there gonna be a finger game pointing, well, Amenia, you did this, no, Northeast did that, well, Northeast didn't do that, Red Hook did that.
well, that's a what if.
You divide it by 4, though, the cost
At the end of the
repairing.
use, there's a provision here that at the end of the use, and the town using it has to do certain things before it lets it go, and then
They
it
have to
goes to the
change
next
the oil and fill up
town.
the gas tank.
And the next town has to inspect it. If there's a problem, then they have to advise the other towns that there's a problem with the equipment. So-
I mean, Denise, it's all good on paper, but when it's
No, I'm just telling you
in
what
a
it says.
process of actually using it and going through it, I mean, we're talking to the highway supervisor that lives this stuff, and I mean, what are your feelings, Dan?
I don't know, like,
So do
if
you
I
want to pay
send-
the 65 to get out of it?
If I
On
send a
what?
piece of equipment to Dover, it goes with one of our operators. I just don't send a loader or something to Dover and say, here, use it. Even the roller, Town of Washington used it with one of our guys, as an operator. This paver is gonna be completely different, but, I'm sure we'll work things out in the long run. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be tough. And it's gonna be expensive, I believe.
I think one problem that you have right now is that this proposal goes back months and months, and all of this has been put in through the county, and all these other towns have looked at this and approved it, and are ready to go. They're all looking for the signature pages to come back now to go to the county, so if you don't do it, I don't know what happens with the whole thing with all the other towns. Because this kind of goes back many months that this has been on the table. I know Stan, you talked about it before.
Right.
Yeah, right, we discussed it here at the board meeting.
Yeah.
We discussed to see if we could find a grant for it, that's what we discussed, and we voted on to apply for the grant. That's what we
Well,
voted
and
on.
now we're gonna,
This is the
now
gra-
we got the grant.
we got
and
it.
now we have to make a decision as to whether to close the deal. And so,
Well, that's what I'm trying to
you
get
know,
at.
I think, we're in the game. We made that commitment. I think we need to stick by the commitment.
So we're not making a decision to close the deal, we're just making a decision that we okayed to get the grant money, we received the grant money, so just because we received the grant money, we have to take it.
No, we don't. We do not until we sign on it.
Yeah.
Every single town is gonna be debating it just like we are.
Well, I wouldn't say,
They're signing it.
I wouldn't say back out of it.
All
now.
of them are
All
signing
of
it.
them
So-
have already signed except for
But
us.
that's
Yes,
exactly
we're
what
the
we're
only
talking
one that
about.
has
We're the
it.
only ones, okay.
We're talking, but that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking
We're
about.
the only ones that
backing-
haven't signed off on it, or agreed with it yet.
So then let's vote on it, I guess.
So are we gonna back out of it, or are we gonna go ahead with it?
I mean, the only thing that I'm uncomfortable about with this is that we do not have all the costs that are involved. We don't have an idea of how much the grant is going to cost us, and that makes me very uncomfortable.
One of the meetings that I was at said, there's 4 towns, we'd all have to come up with like 70,000. Then when the county reimbursed us, we wouldn't get the whole 70 back, but most of it.
Yeah, it says it's $67,489.38. And from that, we're gonna receive 65,000 back from the town of Milan. We're gonna lose, we're gonna end up giving up $2,489, which is not horrible, but what are the hitting costs?
Does it include the new trailer? I didn't
Yeah.
get a copy of
Yes.
the new one.
Yeah, yeah.
It does, okay.
Yeah, it's
They
the-
bought a trailer too.
Okay.
They went back to the county. Originally, they thought they were gonna use our trailer, and I told them in no uncertain terms, were they gonna use Amenia's trailer? That trailer was not part of their grant. So they went back to the county and they asked the county if they could purchase a trailer, and they purchased a trailer. So the county said, yes, they could use some of the money to purchase a trailer to move it back and forth.
I know them at the garage. Yeah, I get them at the garage. Yeah. Off the top of my head now. Now, let's say we do, well, we're gonna get it, but what happens if it doesn't work out? Say it's costing us more money in the long
Well,
run?
Then it costs
then
us
we'll get out.
$65,000 to get out.
Costs how much?
If it doesn't
on
work
page
out, we
5,
have
the
to
out
sell our
clauses.
share back to the 3 towns
That's if they want it.
to get out. We have until, I think, May of 2016. That's how long this lease or the agreement is good for. If we decide not to
Well,
re-up,
no, that's not correct.
16.
No. It's not good just in 2016. It's that you can't get out, sell out
until then. So
2016 because of something with the county. Because it's a provision of the-
So if no other
Yeah, we have to follow-
town, if no other town wants to buy us out, then the price for the interest of the terminating town, if not agreed to by the other towns, shall be the average of 3 outside appraisals with respect to the then fair market value of the equipment, but in no event, no more than 65,000. So, bottom line, it won't cost more than 65,000 if we want to get out of the contract by March 31st, 2016.
And
April 1st, any day after that.
That's if you find somebody that wants it.
No.
It would go back to the other
You just
3.
pay the money to
We
the
would
other.
have to come up with that 65,000?
We would pay them 65,000
No.
to get out.
No,
No?
no. You're selling your interest.
To them.
The price for the interest of the terminating town, if not agreed to by the other towns, shall be the average of the 3 outside appraisals with respect to the then fair market value of the equipment, but in no event more than 65,000.
That's
They're
what I
gonna
just
buy
read.
out your share for that amount. You're not paying that amount.
what happens if they say we don't want to buy it?
Well, then you go on with the other provisions.
That's a provision in the contract. They can't just change their mind after they sign it.
If one or more of the other towns elects not to purchase the interest of the terminating town, so either one town can purchase or they could split it. And there is no transfer of the terminating town's interest in the equipment to another town, or if all parties shall elect to terminate this agreement, then the equipment shall be sold to the highest bidder after appropriate advertising of the sale. The net proceeds shall be divided equally among the towns.
But
So
that's if all 4 decide to sell it.
No. Either they would have to buy you out,
Okay.
or if they don't want to do that, or one of the towns doesn't want to buy out Amenia's interest, then you get your appraisals, and then you do the advertise for the sale. But you're not paying to get out. You may not get the full amount you put in, although you have to factor in the amount of the grant that you're getting, what is going to be the actual cost. You're getting the grant money back.
Yeah, if we're reimbursed, we pay $67,489.
And we get reimbursed.
And then we recognize we'll be reimbursed for $65,000. So we're out $2,700. I don't
Right.
see how that's a negative how that can adversely affect the taxpayer by having a quarter use of a trailer, a paver, and a roller.
It all it all sounds good on paper, but.
Well, we'll see where we are at 2016 and make a decision then.
Well,
Right.
I mean, we can what if all night long.
Now, for
But we don't know
$260,000,
what's gonna
we're
happen.
actually out $2,700.
Plus in the quarter of the insurance on top of that, right?
And maintenance.
No, well, I don't know, they
And the
seem to have factored
maintenance.
in legal, they've factored in,
Everything's factored in. There's 4 lawyers that have looked at this agreement.
they've factored
But
in.
you know, you have to
The
look
The consensus
at,
of the board was to go ahead and apply for it, so.
you know, if you're paying 2,700, and yes, you'll be paying a quarter of the insurance and a quarter of the maintenance cost. But if you rent a machine, you have to figure, they rent you a piece of equipment, they're going to factor insurance and, you know, the maintenance cost into a rental. You know, how that compares, I don't know, Steve.
I think we should make the 2,700 back in year 1, if you can use this during the times that you need it. I mean, if it becomes awkward and you still have to rent, let's say, you know, it's not available when you absolutely needed it, and you still had to go out and rent it for a couple of $1,000s, I think you'd still be ahead in a busy year. So I just don't see that 2,700 is that much to risk on the fact that you're going to get
But you're not factoring in the unknown. That's the only thing I'm pointing out.
But
There's
for
unknown.
$2,700, you know,
But-
you can absorb quite a few unknowns.
What if you have a $70,000 repair bill on it?
Yeah,
Well,
but it's
what if
factored
the
4
sky is
ways,
falling?
divided by
I mean, you
4.
could what if all night long here.
I agree.
I think it's
why don't
a
we
heck
just
of
vote
a
on it?
deal.
We could just go ahead and do it and see
Just
where
vote on
we
it.
are at 2016 and, you know, if it isn't working, then
2,700.
we'll do something different.
So make the motion.
I'll make the motion that we sign this agreement, this intermunicipal agreement for sharing equipment, and agreement made as of February 19th, 2015. And agree to, you know, we'll have to pay up front the amount of $6,489.38.
67,000.
67.
Sorry, what did I say? $67,489.38, right? Sorry. And we will be reimbursed, knowing that we'll be reimbursed $65,000 from the grant. I made that motion. And authorize her to sign, the supervisor to sign the agreement.
I'll second it.
Councilman Delango.
No.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
No.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes, for $2,700, yes.
Councilman Perotti.
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The 2015 lawn mowing bid we've already taken care of. We received a heat loss calculation proposal from Morris Associates. This is something that John Scott has recommended we get to,
Can we back up to the lawn mowing bid, which we already are going to advertise for?
what,
I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that we added the rail trail parking lot on Mechanic Street, that the ball fields at Beekman Park would be done on Thursday and Friday only, and that we added leaf cleanup for fall for the Mygat Road Cemetery.
The Thursday and Friday, I asked, Sean told me to put that in.
Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out the
Yeah.
differences between when we did it in 2014 and when we're doing it now, that's all.
Yeah, there were a couple of
I
things
thought
that were
that's a
were
good
missing.
idea, yeah.
I read the bid
That was it.
specs.
The heat loss calculation estimate from Morris Associates for $850 was recommended by, that we do that by John Scott. Before we move on to making any decisions. about what we want to do as far as improving the heating system in here. They'll give us a report. Then once we get that, we can, they also gave us an estimate on heating installation budgetary costs, what the cost would be to keep the existing steam or changing over to hot water. I think once we get the heat loss done, that I would have Morris Associates come in and explain to us the difference between, you know, staying with steam versus hot water and what the energy savings would be. Because it'll be a substantial amount of money. It'll be fairly easy to do with the crawl space here. We wouldn't have to, you know, tear apart all the rooms. But we really need to do something about the heating system. A lot of the parts in the HVAC units in each of the rooms are beyond repair. What we've had to do in 3 of the rooms in the town hall is take radiators out of the hall and out of the stairwells and hook them up in the rooms to provide heat in the rooms. So, you know, we really need to look at a long-range heating solution for this town hall.
Is the heat loss survey for the whole building?
Yes.
So I'm just looking in the scope of service. It's our understanding that the town is considering replacing the existing town hall windows.
Well, I
in
asked
order-
him about that, and it isn't that we're going to replace with the heat loss. John Scott said it would be better to have a heat loss calculation done for one for the existing windows and then what it would be with replacement windows.
And the purpose to gauge the size of the boiler, I guess, that's what it's
Yeah.
for?
Because he said that would be the first step for us in order to gauge what, you know, exactly what we would need for the town hall. Okay, I make a motion that we authorize Morris Associates to do a heat loss calculation of the cost of $850.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Did you outline the reason for our selection of Morrison Associates with this, Victoria?
No, I just asked them because
Because we need to do that.
Robert Travis, Morris Associates had done other proposals for here. There was one that, when Mike worked on the HVAC units as a possible heating source, we had Morris Associates, so I just stayed with them.
Could we add that, your written reason for the selection of them to that, so we fit within our procurement policy?
With, they're providing a service,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
the procurement, we don't need to have 3 bids for services with a
No, we
procurement
don't, but we
policy.
do need to have a reason for the selection, that's all, just a
Yeah, I
little-
just use them
No,
as,
engineering,
because
that's
we'd already,
professional services, that does
Yeah.
not need to be bid out.
Because,
they
because
don't, they don't need to be bid out,
Right,
correct?
because they had already done a study here on
Yeah.
another type of
If you just
heating. So we're
attach
just
an-
staying with the same
Right,
people.
if you just attach like an email even, just saying that to that, I would vote yes if we could
Okay, I
modify
can do that.
that. If we would modify that motion to include that.
What that, we have used Morris Associates for a prior heat study with the HVAC system, so we're staying with the same company.
Yes. Thank you.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti.
Yes. Okay, and we have a first draft of the junkyard law. And I think there are some questions that Denise had. Because we had, I had given a couple sample junkyard laws to John Fenton, and he, came up with, like a draft for us from the town of Northeast and the town of Dover, who have junkyard laws on their books. In our zoning, we don't actually address junkyards, only that, they're not allowed, an allowed use, but there's no regulation in the current zoning regarding junkyards as far as inspection or licensing.
So do you just want to go through the highlighted matters here?
Yeah, if you could.
So on 83-2, license required. The question I had there is who is the responsible person who will be issuing the license?
Would be the town clerk.
And then in 83-3, application existing businesses and inspections. On A3, and A is each applicant for a license hereunder shall execute under oath an application therefore to be obtained from the town clerk, which shall contain the following information. And paragraph 3 is whether the applicant has ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor and such other facts or evidence as is deemed necessary, and then I'm assuming that would be by the town board to establish that the applicant is a person fit and capable of properly conducting the activity or business for which the license is sought. So is that okay, town clerk, the town board?
Why is that in there?
Why is what in there?
So if anybody's ever been convicted of a misdemeanor, it might not.
Or whatever else the town board feels like.
No, it says, and such other facts or evidence as deemed necessary by the town clerk board. Well, I mean, your law as it presently exists, I think, doesn't allow the junkyard. So if
I'm
you're,
not gonna give anybody in here. But I guess if they change the zoning and suddenly allow junkyards in a portion of the thing, we would then have this clause in here to.
well, I think the intent, and again, I didn't put together the first draft. This was provided and I worked off that. If you're going to allow someone to conduct that kind of a business, which can create substantial problems potentially for the town, do you want to try to make sure that you're issuing a license to a responsible person?
Well, I think it's not an accepted use according to the zoning law. We only want to
Right.
have a mechanism to regulate the one we have. That's been grandfathered.
I would ask that we would strike
83.3A3 out of here. Just take the paragraph out.
Take 3 out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know, the application that we had, the interested party right now that's going through this was a question on the application. And they had to affirm.
Yeah, but we're redoing it.
Just so you know, that was part of it. It's not new.
Okay.
So is there consensus on that that's coming out?
We'll take it out.
Everybody's
Agreed.
Yeah.
Everybody's in agreement?
Nobody's disagreeing. Take it out.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, what was the other part you had a question?
And then we get down to 11. Whether an applicant claims a non-conforming use of the subject land, and if so, whether in applicant's opinion, applicant is in compliance with sections 120, 127, and 120, 128, and all other applicable provisions of the code. And then any other information that you think would be pertinent to that application. So that's why that's there. If you want to suggest anything else.
No?
No, I would think that's enough hoops.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you have the option of including, if you were to review an application and you think there's some question or issue or,
But there won't be applications because it's not a use, not an acceptable use. The only point of having any kind of a junkyard law is for regulation of the existing.
right, but changes can occur.
So we need to.
So the question is, do you want to leave it open? Do you want some kind of provision in here that the board would have the option of asking for additional information if you felt it necessary under the circumstances? You know, and just a question I'm posing. No? So-
Okay. We'll move on to E, number 1.
So
What
be
was
a
the
person
question?
presently engaged in or conducting an activity or business such as described in this chapter on real property within the town of Amenia must apply for a license therefore within 30 days of the effective date of this chapter. And under paragraph 1, if the place where such applicant conducts such activity or business presently complies with all requirements set forth in this chapter, and if such applicant has complied with the requirements of the town code and zoning law applicable to the activity or business being conducted, and the property on which the activity or business is conducted, then the applicant would be issued a license. So essentially,
Is that all right? I mean,
well,
Yeah, you had
I
that
think this was
highlighted.
something, I think this is something I added. In
Well, it's
other
like
words, you're not gonna issue this unless the applicant has complied with the other laws of the town. So he's in violation of something else that may impact your decision whether to issue the license here.
Well, isn't that taken care of with presently complied, has complied is past? So wouldn't we just stay with the present? If they're currently in compliance, they're good to go. If 38 years ago they had an issue, it's not a problem, as long as they're presently in compliance.
I don't know, maybe not. If they haven't complied in the past, you've had a hard time and had to take them to court, I don't know, maybe it would have an impact on your decision.
I would think if they were in compliance, that would be that.
I think the potential cost of somebody who is difficult to bring, who has a history of not complying, this being such a very important activity that, the potential for problems that you would want to be able to take that into consideration.
I do understand that point.
It's not like operating.
And they
small
would
business.
be under the fines and other things from
the zoning enforcement at that point. But if a person cleans up their act and is in compliance, I mean, why wouldn't we as a town want to give them a chance to do the right thing? I think we would. We have the methodologies in place already to handle those who go out of compliance.
Well, the
So I would
cost
think
of-
that if it was
cost
just,
often exceeds the fines that are imposed, the cost of going after.
Well, then
and
we would
some
change
of
the-
these long-term, serious problems. I think the fact is we don't have a junkyard provision in it because it's a kind of business that is potential for a lot more cost to the taxpayers than fines and such can automatically cover. It's the kind of thing where you could get in very deep. We have a landfill that we've just paid $6 million to clean up. So, the potential for, you want to make sure that if somebody comes in here, they do not have a history of not complying in the past. I mean, the fact is we don't have it in our zoning now, so it's pretty much moot, but I
mean,
would
you're-
say you want to be as strict as you can about businesses that would be potentially costing taxpayers a whole lot more than a fine could ever extract. You can't get blood out of a stone, and they can cause a lot of damage that ultimately would be on the shoulder of the taxpayers to right. So toxic leakages and, management by the time we catch it, if we do catch it, we discover it later. I don't want future taxpayers to have to pay for somebody who we knew had a history of not following the zoning laws. We can't be there every minute of every day enforcing these things. It's not cost effective and it's not realistic in a small town like us. We have a history of toxic waste happening here in Amenia. We have 8 sites. We've remediated 1. I would not invite more.
So are we going to leave that section in, or?
or are we going to require them to have some type of cleanup bond or something that would allow for remediation should the entire,
You can't get blood out of a stone. Require a bond to ensure that they are not going to pollute the rivers and streams of which the cleanup can exceed millions and millions? I mean, how much are you going to ask these people to do?
We're already talking about just a specific place right now, right?
This is in case you want to add an applicant.
But to do that, we have to change our zoning laws.
Right.
This is a change to the zoning law.
So it's kind of a
It's moot.
point. We're talking about one
This is
specific
all moot.
area right now.
Right, but he's already in.
Yes, and we're trying to
This is
regulate
about
him.
future applicants of which there isn't the right to do it now.
But the only future applicants is going to be if they decide to sell that parcel and the new owner has to apply for the junkyard permit, correct?
That's a possibility, unless it's already grandfathered in.
Which actually occurred,
Right.
one person.
well, was it grandfathered in? I thought it was just a mistake in the permit.
No, it was grandfathered. It isn't an accepted use in the zoning, but it's here, and it's been here for 40 years.
I think Vicky's point is well taken.
Well, it is.
This type of use that can present very serious and costly issues for the town. Do you want to sort of keep a tight rein on it if you're going to issue licenses?
Well, I guess we don't want to make a financial rein on it. You're saying that, Vicki, I think you're saying that asking them to be proactively, financially responsible for a cleanup wouldn't be feasible. But if we're not going to do that, then perhaps we should set something definitive as to what's the measure of the bar that they have to meet. instead of leaving it so open. So if a person decides to do something, they would know going into it what the town is expecting instead of these kind of vague, 38 years ago, you had a zoning violation, so perhaps you cannot, open a junkyard here. Let's try and be more definitive about that then. If you don't want to set a financial.
I don't think it's possible to set a financial, I mean, the cost of cleaning up leakage of oil into
No, your example
poisoning
of
people's
Thomas Young Park
wells,
was
I mean,
a
it's
really
just
good one. It
impossible.
was
So I don't
something that
know
we're enacting right
if
now.
such
so.
applicant has complied with the requirements of the zoning law applicable to the activity or business being conducted on the property on which the applicant shall be issued a license. I mean, I don't know what language we could recommend
The
to be
business being
clearer.
conducted is a junkyard. There's only one junkyard in town. And, we're not talking about adding more junkyards to town. This is just
To regulate the one we have.
regulate the one we have, so.
Because there's no regulation in the
What if we
existing
just
zone.
added something like, if such applicant has complied within the past 10 years? So they've shown a record or something such like that.
What do you think, Denise?
I mean, that's your decision, if you want to, have some limited period.
Within the past 10 years? There's a guy who was just buying up places all along Route 22. Do you know this guy? He's in jail. But you know who got stuck with the tab? He may come out of jail, and now we've got 10 years he's been in jail. Now we've got, I don't know. Why are we being so careful about somebody who wants to operate, about protecting the right of a business person who wants to operate a junkyard? I think what we have to do is protect the residents from someone. I would just be more careful, because we know we've had a history of people coming in and dumping and causing a huge cleanup costs and a huge environmental nightmare to people who border on those properties and could have their wells poisoned and their properties rendered useless. I mean, I don't know why we're worrying about the rights of some potential theoretical person coming in. We have had a series of disasters in Amenia. I'd like to try my best to avoid.
So would 20 years of...
No, I think,
If you're looking
period.
at a junkyard as like a
I don't
negative
know.
thing, we're talking about, that this is a place where people can recycle their cars. Not, they're disposing of something, all of that metal and stuff is gonna get reused for another purpose at some point. So you kinda have to look at it that way.
That's true, Stephen, but Vicky's making a really good point. If the person walks away and the stuff is left there and, it leaches into the groundwater and it poisons the
Well, that's the
neighbor's
thing,
wells, These are
Do you
serious
want to be able to have a
issues.
junkyard there or not? What we're talking about here is we're trying to put a law in place for something that is already grandfathered in, that already exists. Are we going to shut them down, or are we going to allow them to continue to conduct their business?
If they've been complying with the requirements of the town code and zoning law applicable to the activity or business being conducted on the property which the
So
activity
we
or
should
business is
leave that
conducted,
in, right?
he would be fine.
Let's just leave it in.
Well, then we'll leave it in.
I think, don't set a timeline, just say, is he complying or not? He's, I think
Now, it
that's
said
right.
the applicant may be granted a temporary license for
30 days.
Well, this is a little more serious. If the place where the applicant conducts the activity or business does not presently comply with all requirements set forth in this chapter, but the applicant has complied with the requirements of the town code and the zoning law applicable to the activity or business being conducted, and the property on which the activity or business is conducted, the applicant may be granted a temporary license. So they're saying is, if the place where he is not meeting the requirements, do you want to give him a temporary license for some period of time to operate despite that?
no.
No.
No, are we
Not
gonna,
unless he needs that, not unless he
Well-
needs the license in order to bring it back into compliance.
are we gonna run into any issues? I mean, the property we're talking about already has a license, right?
No, they have a temporary.
They have a temporary
It's a
license.
new owner.
It's a
But I
new
thought we
owner.
went through that whole thing where 2 licenses were issued and then we had to revoke 1 license.
We did that.
So was the other license still good, or do we revoke both licenses?
No, we
No.
didn't revoke both. We revoked the.
So he has a good license now?
He has a temporary one.
Temporary.
And if that temporary runs out the end of March. So we need to get a plan.
This is why we need this done.
Does
Because, I
he
mean,
need a temporary license to clean up the activity that
That's
did
what I
not
just
meet the
asked.
compliance? I'm sorry, okay.
Why would he need a license to bring it into compliance?
Okay.
because on the next page you have, you know, the licensee must erect and properly maintain a 6-foot wire fence of closed mesh or one of made of wood. I mean, there's no fence around that place. So now if we pass this law, we have to put a fence, he has to put a fence up
Mhm.
in order him to be compliant.
Yep.
Right.
So is there a,
And if we do it in March and the ground is frozen, he won't be able to.
Well, I mean, you can give him a period of time to put up his fence.
Well,
if
that's
you
what we're
want to do
talking
that.
about. We
Well, you
could
can
grant
do
a
another
temporary
temporary.
license. That's section E, paragraph 2.
So for 30 days?
So you
I'd
give-
say conditional upon the activity that's out of compliance. If he's doing damage to the property that could poison our aquifer, then I don't think you'd want to give him another 60 days to
yeah, but I mean, if
continue.
there's damage on that
But it
property,
may
Vicki,
be
it's been
granted,
there
it
for
doesn't
how
have
many
to be
years?
granted.
It's
Yeah,
not
we
like
don't
it,
have to grant it either.
it's not like it just turned into a junkyard yesterday.
No, I know.
It's been there for, 60 years.
Right, but
and-
now we're going to have a chance to inspect it, and if he becomes non-compliant in one aspect or
And
another.
regulate it. So the applicant may be granted a temporary for 30 days?
Yeah, maybe
Well, you
for
could make
30
it in the
days.
discretion.
At the discretion, right.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the
Discretion of-
discretion of the town board. And if at the end of such 30 days, okay, and then number 3, what was that? You shall send the named owners a notice of the issuance of such temporary license together with a copy of this chapter by regular first-class mail?
Oh,
What was that?
Yeah, they should get a copy of the law that
So
goes
that's
to it,
okay?
but
So
I
we'll
think
leave
it should be
that?
certified,
Okay.
not regular. Want to make sure they get it.
Well, I think it should be both. Because some people don't pick up certified, but they'll pick up the regular
True.
so you
So-
want by both here?
Yeah.
By regular?
by
and
both,
Certified?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want return receipt on it?
yes.
Please.
Okay, no license shall be issued by the town clerk pursuant to this chapter until an inspection of the subject land and activities and/or business being conducted pursuant to this chapter shall have been conducted by the code enforcement official. The requirement of such inspection shall apply annually. Additionally, consistent with section 121-53 of the zoning law, no license shall be issued pursuant to this chapter if it would be in conflict with provisions of chapters 121 and 63 of the town code or any other applicable local, state, or federal law or regulation. I think that should be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a yes. And the fee for the license? What's the current fee?
That's just what was in the draft that was sent to me.
What's the current fee, Dawn?
$25, $50. It was so minimal. It's not.
So 250 sounds good to me. Unless somebody else has a better idea. I don't know what other,
What's
shall we
the
check
cost
with
of
other towns?
inspecting? What,
Yeah, you have the inspection.
that covers the inspections, yeah.
Yeah, and.
That more than covers the cost of the inspection.
Right.
It's 1 hour of the CEO's time.
And
Okay.
the time for reviewing.
And the licensee must erect and properly maintain a 6-foot wire fence of clothes mesh or one made of wood? Is that
So that
something
was-
you want to require?
That was in the draft that was sent to me. I have no idea if that's what you want or that's what you think is sufficient.
Well, the problem with that is that's, the zoning code doesn't allow the 6-foot fence. They
Okay.
only allow 4-foot fence. So,
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know, I'd have to look at the fencing and then you'd have to have an exception. I don't know. I mean, as I said, this was in the draft that was
So
sent
4.
from the building department, so.
So
you want
well, we'd
4?
have to make that whatever the code is.
So 4?
whatever matches the zoning, it would have to match.
Except that burning shall be permitted the first 2 days of each and every month? I don't think so.
Okay, let me go back. On the fencing, is the close mesh or made of wood, are those acceptable to you? Do you want something different? I mean, obviously mesh, you can see through it. I don't know the location.
Why are we making them put up a fence?
Probably.
I mean, this is turning into a nightmare for one thing. I mean, you're gonna have an existing business now go and put up a fence? I mean, how many acres is it?
But that would, I think that oversteps the whole concept of something being grandfathered in.
I mean, the place has been a junkyard for 50 years. I mean,
So do you want to take that out?
Yes.
I think we should take out the fence thing.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. It also mentions to prohibit the entrance of children and others in the area or of the activity or business. So is there a safety issue that you want to consider?
We require fences around a pool, is that right? Because of kids and the potential for somebody falling in.
That's exactly what I was just thinking too. In this scenario, what if we just had security as opposed to fencing?
To prohibit the entrance of children, I don't know how he's gonna do that without putting in a fence.
Well, we don't have to keep that in there. If you wanted to take out the whole
I mean, if
section.
a
We
kid
can
wants to go
take
play with
out-
junk cars, he's gonna jump over a 6-foot fence. I mean,
That's true.
that's what it comes down to. It's,
Now, section E also talks about that. Oh, wait a minute, section D.
So if we can strike 83-5C
And D.
and
D also talks about the
D.
fence.
and
And-
the burning is,
Take that out.
it can't be there.
You're not burning every month.
So that whole thing is coming in, E.
Well, the burning part.
Well, so you want the first, shall be disassembled and dismantled by means other than burning and shall be,
And
Oh.
shall be piled or
and
arranged
the
in neat
vehicle's
rows.
parts, materials shall be piled, you want that in?
Yeah. Because that also helps keep vermin down.
G has to go if we're not doing a fence.
And then J, what did you have, constables in
They
there?
had police in the draft that was sent to me.
We don't
Okay.
have police.
No. So it'd be the town code enforcement officer, the town clerk.
You want the constables out?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Shall be granted access to the area of activity or business of the licensee at all reasonable hours to inspect the same for compliance. I don't think the town clerk wants to do any inspection, do you?
I'll pass this year. Might need a new pair of boots.
You wanna
And we'll leave the town
in
board.
there?
Yeah. And then it says, with all applicable provisions of the town code, including this chapter and the zoning law. Is that okay?
So the town board could go down there and do a zoning compliance inspection?
Well, you may have a situation where you want to accompany
The
the
town
code
zoning.
enforcement
Yeah.
officer to look at something, so.
Okay.
Okay, so burning is that on K?
Yeah, we're not burning.
K is out.
Mhm.
Wasn't like-
And then the fine we have to consider, right? For every violation of this provision of this chapter, a person violating the same shall be subject to a fine if not more than $1,000 or imprisonment. Gonna put them in jail. Not exceeding 30 days or to both such fine and imprisonment.
It's up to you. Could be persuasive. Get the problem. Again, I didn't pick the amount. It was in the draft that was sent to me.
Well, we can't authorize imprisonment,
No, but the court can.
right?
So if you have it here, that this is a potential penalty, then if you have to bring someone to court. this is
Then they would get
the-
imprisonment not exceeding 30 days.
Either or, not more than $1,000, so it's not more than, it can be less, or imprisonment, or both, depending
So
on
is
the
everybody all
severity.
right with the fine, or?
Yeah, depends on how serious it is.
Okay, so you can go back with the changes and then,
Are we sure we're not pricing him out with the fine?
Well, if he's violating something, that's his,
well, that's,
Willful
that's,
behavior.
yeah, that's to keep violation from happening. I mean, you have to make it,
if it isn't enough, it doesn't deter.
if it isn't enough, it's not gonna deter anybody. I mean, we want them to want to avoid it at all costs.
Fine.
Okay, and then you can send us the changes and we can look at them and then we can, put it on the agenda for the March 5th meeting. The approval to pay claims, do you have that?
Yes, I do. I've scanned and emailed to the town board this evening the most current.
Yeah, we had to make a change on the original abstract. There was a dollar amount.
So
That was
this evening,
incorrect.
a total amount that's being presented to the board for payment of claims, which will include a December 2014 payment and your February and prepaid payments. The total amount is $661,609.45. Read that top sentence. Approval, authorize the supervisor.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the supervisor to pay these vouchers on this abstract dated February 19th, 2015, and consisting of 4 pages which are audited and allowed in the amounts shown. General fund total for December 31st, 2014, $2,069.92. For February 15th, total of, do I need to read the different funds and how much they are?
I
Or just
will
the
put
total?
that in the spreadsheet.
Okay, so the total for the February 19th, 2015 vouchers is $77,736.62. The prepaid vouchers are in the amount of $581,802.91. And the total vouchers that we'll be signing are authorizing is $661,609.45.
Councilman Delango,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger,
One sec. I'm just reviewing what you sent.
I had to send it back to make a change, so.
Yeah. Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
Councilman Prody,
Yes.
and Supervisor Prody.
Yes. Public comment?
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, thank you. You can sign it.
Are there any other matters anyone else wants to bring up?
You have public comment,
I know, but I had other matters first.
your next bill.
Okay, public comment?
And pass it
I
back.
can't do other matters?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did.
Hi, my name-
You'll have to, wait a minute, Bill. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Other matters.
Go ahead.
Dawn and I have been working on the website. As she mentioned earlier, we got the pay taxes button put up. So that's moving. We're going to get a quote from BAS to make modification on the, let's just say it's modification of the front page. So when you look at the front page, whereas right now you have the menu at the top, and then down underneath it you get, public hearing, and then there's a pancake breakfast, and then don't park your car on the sidewalk, and then there's a Boy Scout event. Instead of that all being mixed together, what we want to do is put the community events, like all of the dinners and the pancake breakfasts, because we love the pancake breakfast, Andy, all in one column. So if you're just looking for a community event, that would be in one column, and then in the center column we would have all of the public hearing and meetings and town notices, and then still keep those quick links off to the side with the weather report and stuff like that, so that side wouldn't change. But hopefully splitting out the information of the stuff that is town required versus the stuff that we love to do in our town, which is attend all of the functions and support our all of our organizations, so you could get to that information a bit quicker. So if the board would just, hopefully I'll have that for you for the next meeting, if you would just spend some time thinking about that and how you feel about that type of change. So as soon as I get the prices, I'll get them out to you. I don't think it'll be a large amount of money, but I think it will make a real difference in the way people can interact with our site. So that was my other matter.
Okay. Are there any other matters from anyone? No? Public comment?
My name's Bill Flood. I just have a couple questions about this law that you're trying to adopt. I understand it was an illegal permit that was issued. Was there an illegal permit that was issued to this business?
They had a
Not to the
license,
current.
not a permit.
Correct. But they don't have a permit from the town?
They had excuse me? They were issued a license
From the town,
from the town for years, and it
Correct.
just was renewed every single year.
right? And it's illegal business? Is it illegal or legal?
It's legal. Grandfather's.
legal?
It's grandfather.
Prior non-conforming.
So how can you write a new law to make something that's not correct in the zoning correct?
The only thing we're writing in the law is to have an ability to regulate the existing junkyard. There's nothing in the zoning law to regulate it. There's nothing in the zoning law that says they has to be inspected before they're issued a license. So that's the only thing we want to add to the existing zoning laws regulation.
Well, I would suggest that you do the fence also, or some kind of screening, which everybody else has to do whenever we're doing the business here. Look at Silent Ridge is spending millions screening their property. That looks pretty nice. Also, the fee you mentioned is $250. I have to apply for a site plan. That's $450 plus a $2,500 escrow account. I think $250 is ridiculous. It should be much more, brought up to speed as to what it is, what everybody else is paying. It doesn't make sense to do, when I had the Cozy Corner, I spent $12,000, $15,000 doing a site plan, and you're gonna charge $250 fee, it doesn't make sense.
Well, the existing license fee was $25, which made
Well, I
even
don't
less
think your-
sense than that.
Correct, your fees don't make any
So,
sense.
you know, we're gonna make, you know, we're gonna have something
Well, they have to be brought
better
into
than that.
us, up to speed with everybody else. You know, and I think, and why is the town clerk giving licenses? Shouldn't that be in front of the ZBA, the town, or the zoning administrator? Wouldn't he oversee that?
He gives permits.
And licenses also?
No.
He shouldn't be inspecting the,
Yes, he should be inspecting. That's
Right.
why that's
Okay.
why we're upgrading the laws so that he'll have to, before they will be issued a license, it will have to be inspected.
good, good. I'd also like to thank John Fenton for doing an incredible job at the town. He's done a great, great job. Thank you.
Okay, is there a town board comments?
I have a town board comment. Christine Ford was unable to get here tonight, so she's asked me to relay the information, the message that pitching and catching clinics for baseball and softball signups, they're going to be on March 7th and 14th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that's my comment.
You announce those as well.
Okay.
You do fine. You've got it. Go ahead.
Here, you can announce that one, and I will announce this one. Okay, I am going to announce there's a Wassaic Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary Breakfast and Bake Sale, Sunday, March 8th, 2015, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Wassaic Firehouse. Enjoy pancakes, omelets, eggs, bacon, sausage, home fries, toast, coffee, and juice. She knows that I can.
And you frowned at making that announcement.
Adults prices for adults are $7, seniors $6, children $4. Any questions? Call 845-373-9557.
That was excellent. I cannot
I'll do this
follow
one
that.
too. Okay. Why not? Don't encourage me, people. Corned beef and cabbage dinner, sponsored by Cub Scout Pack 29. Saturday, March 14th, 2015, serving from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Wassaic Firehouse, Firehouse Road, Wassaic, New York. Dessert bake sale, eat in or take out, $10 per dinner. For more info, call Jen at 845-902-0210.
Do we have to RSVP for that? You do not. You can do walk-ins.
You
We
just
always
walk-in.
take walk-ins.
Okay, is there any other town board comment?
Regarding the fencing, there have been other businesses who have been made to put fencing up around properties, since that did come up in the junkyard law, just to throw that out there. That's happened in the town before at significant expense to the business owner. Now, I don't know if I can do this as good as Stephen, but the VFW is having a breakfast on Sunday, March 1st. The Harlem Valley Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 5444 Auxiliary will hold a breakfast on Sunday, March 1st from 7 to 11 a.m. The breakfast will be held at the VFW Post 3422 Route 22 in Dover Plains. The cost is $7 for adults, $6 for seniors, and $5 for children 12 and under. The menu consists of eggs, pancakes, hash, bacon, sausage, home fries, toast, coffee, and juice. Come and support your local veterans organization.
Both are awesome breakfasts. You all should go.
You have to see, this is the great thing about winter is every Sunday you have to find the breakfast. That's like the key.
Okay, any other town board comments? Okay, I'd like to, oh, did you have something?
Yeah, I did want to just say that there's a free workshop on Thursday, March 19th at the Farm and Home Center. It is reviewing stormwater management in site design plans for planning board members. It's free, 6:30 to 8:30. And I also attended the Association of Towns meetings and learned quite a lot. I attended a workshop on fund balance policies and didn't realize that we need, and I have squared, should have a fund balance policy. And we're going to need to break down each fund balance in each account as a part of our budget and ensure this policy should have items that will ensure that we have the daily cash flow on hand for, they recommend 60 days, kind of like in your own family. If somebody were to lose a job, can you operate for 60 days? There's no magic formula. Some people say 15%, some say 17% of your budget, but they don't recommend either as a rule of thumb. You have to justify, the amount of money that you feel is a recommended fund balance. As we know, fund balance is your cash reserves at any one time in your budget. That's a new regulation from the Department of State. There were a lot of really good workshops that I attended. One that it was in the afternoon. I was barely listening to this clean water funding workshop, and they said the new deadline for hardship qualification is March 2nd. And what really perked up my ears, I was almost nodding off, and they said they changed a rule for inclusion, for the, if you remember our sewer, we're eligible for that hardship funding. I know we're missing some deadlines, but originally we had to provide 50% of that district needed to be residential and 50% business, which is why 51%, it's now 25%.
Residential?
Residential. So it could be 75-25. And they lowered the funding line to 10 points, so we were on the IUD list for a while. We'd made it onto it, and now it's essentially any sewer project, well, practically any sewer project would qualify for funding because there's been an excess of money each year. Less money is claimed, and there's more money that is available each year. Projects just are never quite ready to roll for whatever reason. They couldn't form their district or whatever. There's a lot more information that's needed as part of that March 2nd deadline. But I thought I handed off some information to Darlene Reamer, who's going to chair up that
Can
group.
you forward some of that to me, please?
I can give you my handwritten notes, and
that's fine.
maybe there's a handout on the web.
Could you forward it to all of us?
Sure, I'll just type that up. It was really good. Then I stayed afterwards and talked to, I just wanted to mention one other thing because I was informally talking to David Everett, who was there to give a talk on organizations or entities that are immune from our zoning laws. And like we said, we're one of those. But another one is in Metro North. And as in talking to him informally, I said, I was driving around. I had a few minutes, arrived early for the train. And so I drove around trying to see where their parking lot, the expanded parking area, was supposed to be. Do any of you know where that is? So,
The expansion?
Yeah.
It was going to go south.
It was going to be the south of that? It certainly
Yeah,
was
and they were also going to put in a cell phone.
Cell tower also.
The cell phone tower and the extra building was going to go, I'm directionally challenged, east.
Okay.
So that way, but the yard and buildings there was going to stay the same. And that's one of the engineers that's designing it.
We haven't
was
seen it yet,
telling me.
or they haven't designed it yet.
They haven't issued it publicly.
So David Everett is our attorney, and for the planning board anyway, and he recommended that maybe we be proactive. I had mentioned the fact, or maybe he mentioned it, that all we can do is basically ask them to follow our master plan and our zoning laws, but we don't have anything that requires them to do it. But if they haven't yet designed up, what kind of lighting they're putting in, or, that kind of thing, it looks like a prison as I drive by, in my opinion. But if there are requirements or recommendations that we want to do, that we want them to consult our zoning laws and see if they can comply as best they can with, reasonable lighting that makes sense for their parking lot and for the rural atmosphere that we have. If we want a bathroom, we should ask for it up front. We should ask for whatever we want now, and perhaps we should authorize Victoria to draft up something that would help us get our foot in the door. The other thing that I had was I did go to the annual meeting, which was on Wednesday morning, and it was very interesting. I knew this would come up. The first resolution to come up was to repeal the tax cap, the property tax cap. Everybody voted unanimously to repeal, to send a loud and clear message to the governor and the legislature that we want them to repeal the tax cap resolutions and the tax freeze. I was the lone no vote. Out of 211 delegates, I gingerly raised my paddle and said no, and they said, "You mean abstain, right?" And I said, "No, I mean no," because I didn't say why. But my feeling is that taxes cannot continue at 2% or more per year ad infinitum, that we will not, the current residents here will not be able to keep pace with that. So if you all, when I go, I guess I'm up for election this year, I'll go door to door and see how you all feel. Do you want the taxes to continue on, or do you think the tax cap is one way that the town board has to seriously take into consideration the 2% or less or 0 or trying to reduce taxes? Do you want to take that seriously or not? I'm open to ideas, but I voted that way, and they were shocked, and I hope that I voted the way that the rest of the town residents feel.
Well, one of the biggest problems with the tax cap is the caveat they put in, it's 2% or the rate of inflation. Well, we have no inflation, which is why the tax cap keeps going down every year. The year before was 1.66, last year was 1.56. I have no idea what it's going to be this year, but that's what's really putting a strain on all the local governments, trying to, keep services and just be able to run their towns and villages without being subjected to that. I know we need to keep the taxes low, and there's, we're all trying to do the best we can. But
the reality
but
is,
I mean, at least if we had 2% and it stayed at 2% every year, we'd have a fighting chance, to be able to offer the same services and keep the taxes down. But it just makes it very difficult, having it, at the cost of inflation and not really knowing, what it is going to be from year to year does make it difficult for the towns. But, you have to do it, and that's it. So we do it.
No, you don't have to do it. 2/3 or 60% of the town board can vote to override it. It's not impossible to override. So I think all we have to do is make a case. Yes, we want a rail trail extension, or yes, we want to build a highway garage, and yes, it's going to put us over, this initial time. But I think the reality is we have to just do a better job doing our very best to keep those taxes down. And if we have to go over the 2% or 0% or show that we're reducing it, we have to make our case to the taxpayers. This is why we absolutely cannot meet that goal.
One question.
Which is why I think this year we voted to not go over it.
And we
because-
stayed, and we went
and
under.
And we stayed under.
Right.
But thank you for representing the board by your vote.
I hope I also represented the residents, but if you feel strongly
Well,
the
nobody
tax cap
screamed
should
at
be
me, so I
repealed.
think you did.
One question about the Association of Towns. Is any board member able to go to that?
Yes?
You can all go, but one needs to be a voting delegate. So there is a line drawn between those that are watching and those that are there
Well,
to
everybody
vote.
got the Association of Towns magazine. It has everything about it in it. You all get it.
No, I thought when we voted on it that
Who's the
you know,
proposed?
you were voted to go to it, and then Vicky
No,
Doyle
Vicky
was the
Vicky was the
alternate.
No,
Vicky was the
she's a
delegate.
delegate.
Victoria was the
I just went
alternate,
because I
and
wanted to
was
take
under
some of the
same
classes.
impression you were.
I just thought we had to choose people to go to this, but
No,
for
anybody
future
can
reference,
go.
anybody could
Oh,
go.
no, absolutely.
Okay.
No,
It's
we don't have
very,
to
very
choose
good.
anybody, we just have to choose a delegate.
For the Wednesday morning session, that's it. The rest is
Yeah,
open.
somebody to vote.
Yeah.
That's it in the budget.
Okay, any other town board comment? Okay, I make a motion to go from regular session to executive session for pending litigation. We'll be, and meet in the assessor's office with our assessor Wayne Uvrard and our town clerk Joan Klinger. I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
That's a no. Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody? And Supervisor Prody.
I know.
Yeah.